Angel Studios is partnering up with Sound of Freedom director Alejandro Monteverde a second time after the massive, massive success of Sound of Freedom. They are going to be bringing his film Cabrini to theaters in March 2024. Let's get into this here. So just to point out, like, Sound of Freedom is a massive success. I wasn't understating that. The movie is currently the 9th highest grossing film in the domestic market with a gross of $181.9 million. It has gone on to earn $2.6 million in Australia and New Zealand. And Angel Studios has announced plans for a much wider international release in the near future. With that film's success, Angel Studios and director Alejandro Monteverde are teaming up again to bring his film Cabrini to theaters in March 2024. Angel Studios sent us a press release, and it reads, Angel Studios, a platform empowering filmmakers with full creative control to crowdfund and create, is announcing today the release of Cabrini, the second Angel Studios release from Sound of Freedom director Alejandro Monteverde. Cabrini will launch in theaters nationwide on March 8, 2024. Angel Studios Chief Operating Officer Liz Ellis commented on the film, saying, Francesca Cabrini is one of the most inspiring and influential figures in modern history, and yet few know her story. Faced with seemingly insurmountable life obstacles, Cabrini chose instead to focus on how she could change the status quo in her time, and her impact on the world is still felt today. Ellis added, we're thrilled to be able to share her unbelievable story in theaters this spring. This will be our second collaboration with Sound of Freedom director Alejandro Monteverde, and the Angel Guild gave this film even higher ratings than Sound of Freedom. Our community has high expectations for this project. So the official synopsis for the film says, directed by Alejandro Monteverde, Sound of Freedom, Cabrini shares the story of Francesca Cabrini, a poor, audacious Italian immigrant who became one of the great entrepreneurs of the 19th century. Through her willpower, courage, compassion, and business skill, she overcame sexism and violent anti-Italian bigotry while fighting against an establishment seeking to hold her back. Monteverde discussed the film in a live stream hosted by Angel Studios' Neil Harmon at the beginning of August, saying, Cabrini, her life shined a light in a very dark world in very dark times, and I was honored to be part of a film that shines a light on her life, and I was embarrassed because I didn't know who she was. This is a woman that had a tremendous impact in the world, tremendous. Her impact goes beyond any other historic character that has had an impact in the world. I think he's a little overstating that. I think Jesus Christ is probably number one there, right? Obviously, Cabrini was inspired by Jesus Christ. She's a Catholic nun and is actually a canonized Catholic saint. But he goes on and says, this film is a film that you experience. It's a film that, and I hear this is not from me, just from the audiences that I've seen, they come in one person and they leave a different person. And one of our goals when we make movies is to make movies that begin when the movie ends, that leaves you in a state of reflection. It makes you question about how more you can do for others. So I think that's a really powerful statement there, right? It's the movie is to turn your life into a movie and tell your story, right? And help you along in your story. So we do get a little bit of information here about her story from the film's executive producer, J. Eustace Worthington. How he explained how the film will resonate because Mother Cabrini was experiencing similar situations to what is happening in the United States today. He said, the story takes place back in 1889. It's a period film, but the amazing thing is that the time she lived in is very much like the time we live in now. When Harmon asked him to explain, he said, she was in Italy. They had taken God out of the country, God out of the schools, and became a very secular nation. And if you were any kind of a Christian, you were kind of persecuted, but that didn't bother Cabrini. She would teach in a public school, and she would be teaching catechism in a public school, and the authorities would come down on her, and by the end of the day, they were converted. She was the only one in Italy teaching about God in the public schools, but that's just one little example how she started out. What's amazing about Mother Cabrini is she never quit no matter what she did. She could overcome any obstacle, and she had obstacles thrown at her from the very beginning. So this looks really interesting. I've got the trailer in here in the article if you want to look at that on the website. Obviously, you can find it on Angel Studios YouTube as well. If you find the full length, it's like about an hour interview that Eustace and Alejandro do with Neil Harmon, where they're talking about the film. There's also some clips that they share from the film as well, some powerful clips. There's this scene right here with David Morse's Archbishop Corrigan, basically giving her an order to leave New York City, is a really powerful moment. Some great dialogue. You can just feel the tension and the immensity of it. You can feel the weight of his words as well. Really, really, really strong acting. The dialogue seems to be really well written as well. And then also the architecture and the way it's shot looks absolutely amazing. So I have really high expectations for this. This is probably going to be one of the few films of 2024 that I'm going to try to make it into theaters. The movie stars I'm butchering her name already. Christiana Delana as Mother Cabrini. John Lithgow is kind of playing an antagonist type character. He seems to be someone who's kind of influencing David Morse's Archbishop Corrigan to try and run her out of New York. Obviously, David Morse is playing Archbishop Corrigan. You also have Giancarlo Giannini and Federico Castelluccio as well. I think one of them is actually playing the Pope. So I think the way she's going to get around Archbishop Corrigan is going to the Pope. So looks really interesting. I hope it inspires a lot of people to find out more about Frances Xavier Cabrini, who she is, and her life story. I know I'm looking forward to it. She's probably one of the few saints I don't really know. She's one of the saints I don't really know a lot about. There's a lot of saints out there, but I'm really looking forward to seeing more of her story and seeing what she's about. And even if the movie isn't an accurate portrayal of her movie, which it seems like it's going to be, Alejandro Monteverde and Jay Eustace Worthington seem to be pretty on point with getting her story correct. But even if it doesn't, at the end of the day, hopefully it inspires people to go and look up more about who she is and her life and how she inspired others to become closer to God and live a more godly life. So there is lots of interesting things coming out, good things coming out that can entertain you, inspire you, motivate you, probably better than anything that Marvel and DC can come out, or anything that's coming out from the major studios. So I just wanted to put a spotlight on this. Looks really, really good. Just look at the cinematography. Looks really great there. St. Peter's Square in the Vatican there looks absolutely gorgeous. So maybe something to put down on your calendar. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Subscribe for more.